Hi, and welcome to another ISOOSI Chat, our regular Tuesday roundtable discussion about search, social, and all things marketing. I'm Carlos Fernandez, president of ISOOSI, and today we're going to be talking about doing business online, and in particular, connections and disconnects. And joining us today, we have two very special guests that know all about networking and relationship marketing. We have Christine Bowen, and we also have Yvonne Heimann. And joining us also, regular panelists, Ammon Johns, ISOOSI's search marketing consultant and resident isoosichat expert on all things search and all things marketing. And we have Bill Slawski, director of search marketing at Goldfish Digital. So before we do anything else, I really want to pass it over to Yvonne and Christine to give them a bit of an introduction and plug a few things. So Yvonne, do you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Yvonne Heimann. I am the face, boss, however you want to name it, with Ask Evie. So everything social media, online, web design, kind of like the big overview of getting small businesses started and going online.
Christine. Very succinct. Love it. Hi, everyone. How do you follow that preciseness? I'm so excited to be here. My name is Christine L. Bowen, and professionally, I'm a visual communicator, a professional networker, and a self-proclaimed proactive lifestyler. Personally, I live in the DC metro area with my hubby. Been here for too long. I'm from Jamaica originally, and I'm extremely passionate about social networking.
Excellent. Yeah, it was one of the things that really struck me today is that both of you are absolutely reliant on good networking for your business skills. Yvonne, you work with WordPress sites, and I know that although you're incredibly broad, generalized knowledge on a lot of subjects, as most webmasters end up becoming, you need to have that Rolodex, that set of experts that you can call in when you need specialized knowledge. And Christine, I know that you've been spending many years now specializes in network marketing and really utilizing the network directly for your marketing. And these are two areas where certainly a lot of small businesses, but quite a lot of the larger ones too, really struggle. They seem to have a real difficulty in knowing how to approach the network, whether it's the large network of the internet itself and the fact that all of their market is networked, or whether it's the smaller social networks that they have to deal in. To kick this straight over to the kind of small business perspective, let me start with you, Yvonne. What's one of the most common problems that you find clients have, and how do you get them through that? And then Christine, the same question to you.
I think with my clients, the biggest problem is getting them understanding why they need to be involved online. Specifically, a lot of my clients are brick and mortar stores, so for them, Google Local is the place to be. Now, just having the post, we all know just having the page is not going to do the job for you. You got to be there. You got to promote other people. You got to stuff a little bit of your own things in there. And trying to get to the point where, in combination with me and providing generic information on their page, that they also need to be there and have their personal touch on it. Like, yes, I can help you run this. I'm a great technician at automation. There comes my German language back. And setting things up, I'm good at that, but you need that personal touch to it. And trying to get through to a client, first of all, getting on Google+, and then here and there actually injecting themselves, because it's not going to happen overnight that you get that feedback. Like, I'm the perfect version of that. It doesn't happen overnight. You got to work for it. You got to be out there. And trying to get clients to understand that and do that is not easy.
Great points. Christine.
Absolutely. Evie, we are definitely in the same boat, even though our specialties are different industries. My niche market, of course, is the professional networker. We call you're affectionately known as network marketers. Our mission, for me, what I've seen when I approached online as a professional networker, I was taking my principles from offline networking to online. But what I've found over the years in mentoring my partners and even people outside of my organization is, yes, they see the need to go online, which is a little bit different from the brick and mortar, like in Evie's case. So they see the need, but what's lacking for most networkers online and even entrepreneurs as a whole is the human side of everything. And what I think causes that is the disconnect. And I love the title of the show that you've selected, Connections and Disconnects, because the disconnect is they're seeing text, they're seeing names, but they're not assigning that to a human being on the other end. And as a result, they're speaking at their audience instead of engaging with their audience.
Yeah, yeah, I do see that a lot. I mean, Bill and I have had a lot of various experiences, but I think the thing that helped us most with really understanding networking was all of the time spent on the forums, and before that, Yahoo groups. You know, social media didn't start with Facebook. I know that's not popular to say these days, but it really didn't. Right. I've often said that, you know, the social aspect is the part of the internet that was there long before e-commerce. We were using bulletin boards, we were using chat rooms, and, you know, it's the web that came along very last. So I certainly think that those things have given us a perspective that's helped us immensely. You soon learn to put names and words to a personality. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's even trickier with, you know, cartoon avatars and very strange names to think, who on earth chose that? But it's still so important. I think certainly some of the medium and larger businesses, they can be a little bit dismissive of people who are not using, you know, professional names and professional titles and not realizing, yeah, they haven't reinvented their entire persona online just to be able to impress you when they shop with you. You know, this is what they are with their friends, and if you want their money, deal with it, accept it, and make this connection.
Now, I gotta say, with avatars or obvious fake names, I'm careful too. Because we shouldn't need to hide behind something. So I'm careful with that too, but doing the leap of really trying to connect with people no matter what the profile picture is.
Yeah, absolutely. Not everyone is willing to share their a lot of people are quite introverted or even just quite private, and although the internet allows you to be out there with everybody, it shouldn't force us to. You know, I do believe that the only way you have got any privacy these days sometimes is, you know, the shy avatar and the slightly hidden name.
Absolutely. If I may, along those lines, I was speaking with some partners. I'm doing a focus group with about 10 of my partners for how to grow their networks online. And a main concern for most of them is privacy. However, I think it relies rather on your intention for being online. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner and you're seeking to connect with people, I think it's important for them to see the real you, a real picture of you. It doesn't have to be anything revealing, flashy, just a nice, quick snapshot, headshot. It doesn't even have to be professional. I use my MacBook to take my pictures. So I think it's really important to insert our human side online, especially if we're seeking other people to connect with as business owners and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And like especially in a situation like this where we are on HOAs, where we are out there as professionals, just had a conversation yesterday in a green room for those 4 girls. We always try to do this perfect picture, like the clean background and all dressed up and all fine. There is a personal aspect to us, and often enough, people are afraid to do it, but I have found out putting this personal aspect out there, I'm even getting better connections because they see I am not perfect. It's not just the white background. I have a bad hair day. And it's not a problem. We all have it.
It reminds me of, giving a little bit more depth to yourself goes not only on social, but, on your website, on your about page. Reminds me of something that Robert Cialdini, I never know how to pronounce his last name, Cialdini, but he did the keynote at PubCon about 2 years ago, and he was telling folks how to kind of give more personality on their about page. Just even little tips like kind of, if you're going to list all the people in the team, give a little bit more about them. What's their top 5 albums or their top dishes. Allow your audience to get to know you instead of just kind of, this is our company. If you can get your individual kind of character across in your about page, and then that transfers onto social. There's far too many kind of people, I think, see social as just a way of just a platform to kind of spew content instead of share content, but give your opinion on it as well. Don't just share it, but also stay around and have conversations with those people that you share things to. Many of the people that I've become friends with online and network with that's because we've been tweeting together about a football game or something else outside of work. You've got to stick around and have friendly kind of relationships online as well, not just use social as a place to go and put your content.
And Roy just said, I understand that not everybody wants to be fully exposed online. I agree with that. Not trying to play the gender card here, but being two cuties online, you also put a certain vulnerability on yourself when you put yourself out there on your private site. You are opening doors where you're not sure if you should open them. Mm-hmm. Just because I'm like sharing public on Google+.
Yeah.
There are things where suddenly could somebody stand in front of my door because my business is public on Google+. So I understand that not everybody wants to go to the whole extent and share everything.
When we go online and put a business online, we don't have the walls, we don't have the window displays. I started out in the mid-90s promoting websites, and I was sort of like the in-house promoter for one business. And this was before there was a Google. This was when we linked to people, it's because we built a relationship with them, and we trusted them enough to link to them, figuring that they would treat our customers well.
Or because we were in a web ring with them.
Well, I sort of stayed away from the web rings, but worked for a company that provided legal services to people. So linking to a tax accountant, linking to a business attorney made sense, and these were people we knew in person. So when Yvonne mentioned local search and how that's effective for people she works with, those were the people that we were linking to and building relationships with and interacting with, at least at first. And we learned how to be social through things like forums, but it wasn't tweeting. And the first time I tried to tweet, I stared at the screen for a while and said, "Okay, what do I say?"
Hello world, of course.
That's some really great points. There's so much that we can say about social networking, and I don't know if this hour is enough, but at least it's a start. I'm really excited about this topic because for me, when I work with and consult with my clients, my partners about social networking, it really is, social networking is intrinsic to who we are. And if we go back to childhood, when we were children, we had no problem networking. You know, we naturally wanted to share and we were naturally interested in each other. And I think what happens as we get older and more professional, you know, there has to be something bigger, or it has to be more complex than that, and it really isn't. For me, what works for me is what I teach and what I share. I'm right on the same page as Evie. Being a woman, you're kind of vulnerable putting yourself out there on a personal level, but for me, if I don't want people to know, I don't post it, I don't share it, but I do share all sides of me. And I think two things. One mistake people make, let's say misstep, I don't want to say mistake, a misstep that we make as entrepreneurs is we tend to look at what other people are doing instead of what is intrinsically inherent in terms of connecting with people. And the second thing is, yay for Google+, because now we are taking text, removing that veil, and seeing the people behind it. And when you can connect like this, real time, similar to offline, personally, I don't believe anything will replace offline because there's an energetic field that happens when you're in person. But this is as close as you can get. And I think Google Plus is now pushing everyone to start exploring a little bit more or reminding themselves what networking is really about.
Going back to that entrepreneur point, I mean, one of the things that we're always saying in all aspects of online marketing is, you know, understand what everyone else is doing and be unique, go a different way. And I think one of the things that's really worth taking away from this that ties back to the point we made earlier, everyone is trying to show their best. Yeah. So own up to your worst. Show some of your mistakes. Put those out there and you will stand out. Let's face it, we had a show a while ago on local SEO, and we were saying when you're looking at those reviews of a company, when there's 100% great reviews, we go, yeah, you've written over yourself. Wow. You've deleted all the bad ones. Exactly the same kind of thing with your digital background. As you're making your footprint in the world, if there's nothing negative out there, people are going to go, well, hang on. This person's really good at managing their profile, but I don't trust it.
Yeah, you can actually alienate people. Yeah, you can alienate people being so professional. It's intimidating. So showing the real you is important.
Stay away from the Stepford social profile.
I like that.
Yeah, Brian had a nice take on that. Brian says, what one sees as vulnerable and oversharing, others will see as strength and confidence.
Yay, Brian.
And like, to go off just for 1 second, I had, with this vulnerability, I really had to think about twice. This morning, a local business of mine, as well as a friend, she has started 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a real women's photo shoot. Just to go off the women's tangent here just for a second. Means women of all sizes. We had my size, the tiny ones, we had the big women, we had it all just in bras and panties. She got invited for local TV this morning, Channel 3 here in Sacramento.
Nice.
And we actually were able, she was able to get together, I think, 8 women, including me, to go live in bras and panties on TV. Now, personally, I do not have a problem with this. I believe it's all the same, whatever. But I have my business side to this. This is going to be out there. This is going to be on the internet. How are people going to see me? Am I doing this? I love doing it. I love empowering women. I love helping women. I don't want to be just, we poor women, we need help, we need empowerment. But it's this combination of all of it. And I said, you know what? Screw that. It's me. It's going to be out there. Fine. Once I'm grandma, I can be like, look how hot mommy looks like. And it's just me. It just is. And so I know what it means to put yourself out there and really make yourself vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yep, and absolutely right. You know, by all means, think about how is this going to look. But at the end of the day, decision is absolutely, as you say, this is me. If it's authentic and it's you, go with it. Own that and be happy with it.
And you can't make everybody happy. If you don't run into somebody that doesn't like what you're doing it wrong. You're always going to have somebody that does not fit. And with us, we are not Coke or Pepsi or any huge company that needs millions and millions of customers. We just need a small package. And with being real, we should be able to find that small package to do our daily living.
I think that authenticity you mentioned is really important. When I talk with clients about being involved in a social network, and they say, what do I write about? And I'm going back to my Twitter thing, staring at the screen saying, what do I write about? And I talk to them, I say, what do you like to talk about? Why are you in the business you're in? Why does it make you happy? Why do you do what you do? Talk about the things that you're interested in, that you want to talk to people about, that you want to discover common interests, show off your expertise, let people see that you are a serious business person, you love what you do. You're willing to show up with a group of 8 women on TV and show the business, and you are willing, they're willing to go with you. They're happy to do it because you're authentic.
Mark Seidel is going to love that one. He does not agree with people being authentic. They're genuine or real, but not authentic. So he's going to have a blast on this one.
But then again, he's one of the most authentic people I know.
I love that guy. I agree with that to a certain extent. Being in web development, we have the same problem. What the hell am I talking about on my website? Yes, bring some personal into it, but please don't have your dog have its own blog. Yes, you want to have a little kitty picture on Saturday if you have cats at home. You want to have some personal aspect to it, but you want to keep most of it business related. You don't just want to, as a business, post your lunch every time or your dinner every time. If you had a great meeting with the client and you had some great sushi down the street in a local business, tag the business, put a picture of it up, great. Just don't get too personal. You know where I'm going with this? What I'm trying to say?
Moderation. I think everything in moderation like that. There's some great points there. Christine, do you work with, you said you work with clients. I was just wondering, in terms of a process, when you kind of sit down with either a client for the first time or you're trying to get to know, do you have like a process? We've asked other people this in different areas of marketing, whether it's paid search or SEO. Do you kind of sit down with them and kind of look at what their goals are, why they want to get on social, do you attack you with like a questionnaire, or how do you, and then obviously you're a big proponent of Google Plus. Is that the first place that you tell clients to start? Twitter, Facebook. Christine, do you want to?
Absolutely. I mean, those are great questions. And for me, the approach that I take is more of an intuitive approach rather than maybe the mechanical or what makes sense from the technical side of things. So personally, if I could, I would have everyone start on Google+. But with my clients, what I do is I see where their natural environment is. Where have they gravitated towards on social networks? Typically, it's Facebook. So I start with them there, but then I teach them as they grow and their awareness grows, where you can go to increase your effectiveness, including Google+. But really the beginning point for me is for someone to let go, basically unlearn what they have learned and just start from a fresh and intuitive place, which is what I did. So I take them through a discovery process. Bill touched on this, which I thought was great. Ask questions like, what do I like? Who am I? what are my interests? Those things people want to know. I want to know, so if I want to know those things, then people would like to know that about me as well as the people I'm working with. One thing that I see a lot of people do online is they present themselves as 100% whatever their product or service is, and it's like they have no other facet of their life. And I agree with Evie. You don't have to put, every meal that you eat, but have a brand message, and in that brand message, insert yourself into it. So it's a process. There's a discovery process for sure, but I take an intuitive approach.
Good. It's something that we've touched on a number of times in Hangouts is this kind of personas. It's like, for example, most of the things that I tweet or share are kind of search marketing related or marketing related. But I love UFC, I love MMA, and I've got a lot of other hobbies that I don't sometimes feel like I could share on on the main company Twitter handle or other things. So I went and created another one because they were just so. I just saw that I wasn't getting any engagement from the people that I interact with on the in the search marketing field. They all see, a lot of them like baseball and football, and so I created a separate handle just for my my UFC buddies. Sometimes that can work. It really depends. You don't want to be creating several accounts and several personas because it becomes a management problem.
Right.
But you have to gauge it. You have to gauge. You don't. On a Saturday night when there's a fight on and I'm tweeting every 3 seconds, great punch, great. You don't want to be upsetting a ton of your business buddies. So, yeah.
That's a great point. If I can just piggyback on what you said, shared just now, you have to know the environment of the platform. So like for me, I would share those types of things on Instagram, more personal. If I'm watching the fight or I'm watching the football game, I'm not necessarily going to do that on Twitter.
Right.
So you have to know the platform as well. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, the good thing about Facebook is, that I use a lot is, when you do share or you post things, you can exclude groups, and you can, set groups up and just post to groups. So a lot of people don't even realize that is there on Facebook. When I tell clients that and say, when you posting an update, you can actually post it to groups and exclude people, from seeing it. And that's one thing I love about Facebook as well as Google Plus, obviously with the communities. Twitter, not so much. You tweet something, it goes out to everybody.
I think that's a great point, actually. The thing is to learn how to use each platform, and if you've got sort of off-topic interest, it's great to set up a community or join a community. Turn off community posts in your main profile so that people who are coming to you because they know who you are aren't necessarily seeing that on your profile stream, but that community is there. If they've got an interest in it, they're going to find that community on their own anyway, and then they'll get to interact with you and go, I didn't know you were here, Carlos, and it creates that kind of extra level of connection that way. Brian said something a moment ago. He said there are people that are 100% boring. There are certainly people who come across that way, but do you know what? Most of the time, those are the ones they've got some really fascinating, deep, dark secrets. There are skeletons in those cupboards somewhere, and that
those
they're
are the fun
presenting
ones.
a very bland exterior.
One of my clients is the perfect example. If you meet him offline, love him to pieces, awesome. You can talk with him for hours, knowledge all over the place. You set him in front of a computer and he is like frozen. If I would have met that guy online, I would be willing. Don't you have just anything to say? You meet him in person without the screen in between, and you cannot stop him. It really is. Sometimes they just freeze.
Manny Cyanide has asked, would doing something like finding the people who you do business with that are also interested in MMA and putting them in your circle work? And to that, yes. Oh, yes. Some of the sort of add-on tools, along the lines of circle count and plus my reach and things like that, can make it very easy to find people in your circles who then have a particular interest. And
yeah, I found two. I found two search marketers that were into MMA, so I thought, yeah. I'm only joking. But yeah, no, it's a great point. I use, you've mentioned too there. I don't know if you mentioned follower wonk. I think that is a great tool for finding folks on Twitter.
Yeah.
With different different hobbies and stuff. But yeah, follower wonk, circle count. I can't remember the other one you mentioned as well, Ammon.
Plus my reach.
Right. I keep hearing some interference. I don't know. Can you hear that as well, guys?
I have a clear connection.
All right, 1 minute.
It's just you.
Fine on my side.
Yeah, you haven't got those Mexican gardeners working again outside, have you?
It's the gremlins in his machine.
Little voices in my head.
Okay, Peter Lunn asks, do you think that the way various social media channels, such as Twitter, have shaped our online behaviour because of the way the tools work, means that we replicate that same behaviour in Google+?
Nope. I actually think there are people that just use certain outlets, and following them around, messages shape matching to the outlet, but the writing changes, the way of the publication changes, but the message stays the same. So where's the change? Yeah, the change is in how the message is displayed, but I have not found people that actually internally change between outlets.
I do find it very easy to spot the people who are posting their tweets to G+. And we've got some of those in a community that Peter Lunn and I are both in, the UK Connect community. There are some people who you can see straight away, it's always under 100 characters and a picture. And you go, yeah, right, you couldn't even be bothered to come on G+.
Yeah.
See, I'm doing it the other way around. I am not a big Twitter fan. Yes, I'm scanning it through and finding people that I know here on Google+, but Twitter just never really caught me. So yes, I am one of these ones that actually feeds the other way. I'm feeding my Google+ stats over to Twitter, just to have a little bit going on over there. So
I think that is one of the disconnects that we're talking about, is
yes.
People sometimes get so concerned with what they want to say that they stop thinking about the other person's perspective. You know, if I post my G+ links on Twitter, I'm ignoring the fact that the person knows there is a G+ and has chosen to be on Twitter. If they wanted to be on G+, they'd be here. Now, it's fine to offer them something to tempt them, but you'd better make sure it's something good and not just run-of-the-mill.
I agree with that. That's why I have a mix of it. So my Twitter is not necessarily just all my Google+ posts, and I'm just doing my Ask Evie, talking about different views of a person. On my private profile, you're going to see everything. You're going to see food, you're going to see clothing, you're going to see my doggy, you're going to see my nerdy side. Ask Evie on my page is literally just my nerdy side. That's where I'm feeding part of Twitter. And yes, I know that. That's why I am regularly over there. I'm resharing things of people that I follow over there. But I'm not doing as well a job as I should do on Twitter. I agree with that.
You know, I think, first of all, hashtag naughty side, love it. Love you already. So for me, I think there's also a notion that for entrepreneurs that they need to be everywhere. And that's simply not true. Choose a platform that works for you, where your audience, you believe your audience is, and focus on that. You know, for me, when I approached social networking, it became very apparent to me that part of my journey is to mentor other entrepreneurs. So yes, I do have a presence everywhere, but again, you have to know that environment. So yeah, I am one of the people that I do curate content from Google Plus to other places, but not everything. So for example, on Instagram, I'm out driving in my car in my hat doing a thumbs up. That's just going on Instagram and Facebook, you know? So you just have to know, but don't feel pressured to be everywhere. It's not important to do that.
What about, let me just quickly ask maybe a strange question to bring up here, but we deal with a lot of manufacturing clients. I mean, we have clients in all different industries, a lot of financial clients, but the thing I find a little bit difficult with manufacturing clients is sometimes their products, going back to the boring thing, if somebody's just selling steel wire, and that's all they do in steel wire in different lengths and different diameters, it's hard to kind of come up with, should they, Christine, let me put this out to you. If they came to you, I mean, should they be on social at all? We've often talked in these hangouts about the fact that just because you don't want to do social, your customers and clients and you're being talked about. But there are some manufacturing companies that I've come across, and they ask for a strategy, and they ask should we be doing Google Plus or Twitter or Facebook, and the need is definitely not as great as some businesses. But do you think that they should still have some kind of social presence, Christine?
Oh, that's a good question. Personally, I believe there is a benefit. For like example, with a manufacturing type company that's wires, pipes, whatever, that in and of itself, to most people, is like beyond boring. But could they somehow use the Twitter platform, just selecting a platform, as their outlet for customer service, for customer complaints, and have a social media team that feels those comments and complaints, even if it's B2B. It doesn't matter what type of business it is, you have to feel those types of things. So perhaps they could use that as their humanity side by going directly to the customer, or business to customer rather.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And another thing is, as well as customer service, kind of community involvement. If they're doing things in the community for charity, or they're doing like a big barbecue to, or doing any kind of celebration, that's another way to kind of personalize what could be viewed as a boring, a boring company or a boring industry.
I think the biggest disconnect, though, is not following up. What I mean with that is, I personally don't have a problem curating some content over between platforms, as long as it's not just curated. But, for example, I have a nice cute Audi out there. I need something fixed on that radio. I contacted the local Nilo dealership, which is our local Audi guy here, through email on their website. That's the first connection that I did. After 2 weeks not hearing back, I went to their Twitter page, which is an additional 2 weeks ago. I still have not heard from them. Yeah. If small or big companies set up multiple accounts, they need to follow up. No matter which platform it is, if it's Facebook, if it's Twitter, if it's Google+, they all have notifications. At least have one person that is getting these notifications, and even if it takes a week, get back to these people. Don't get lost. If you don't have the capability of following up and recognizing that you got pinged, delete the account.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm very fond of a saying that I first came up with in the forums years ago. It's one of those self-evident truths. There is no such thing as a boring topic, but there's an awful lot of people who present reasonably interesting topics boringly. There is something interesting in everything. I'm one of these people, I love little facts, and I've had some jobs that over the years people would think were exceptionally dull. I've been a security guard. I worked on London Underground, the railways. I know all kinds of facts about London Underground. I know that some of the stations are below sea level. I know which ones are supposed to be haunted. Now, technically, the railway is pretty boring, but there's always some interesting little stories, and particularly if you can connect with people, there's always something very interesting in there somewhere. And that's the thing. That's one of those places where you need to find the connect, or you're going to be suffering the disconnect. If you can't make this interesting to somebody, don't share it.
All right, look with the steel manufacturing that Carlos was talking about. Yes, for the broad audience, it's like, whatever. But the contractors that I used to work with 10 years ago, they would love to talk about which strengths they got to put up in their ceiling to have a strong flow above. You just need to find the right audience.
Yeah, one of the things that my good friend and I always say to each other, Roy Montero, who's watching, hey Roy, market as your audience rather than to your audience. So find out, you know who your clients are, so you know what kinds of things or needs they have. So share content, if you're going to share content, that will interest those people. And who cares about the other people? We're talking about niching yourself. So if you have your little niche and you're loyal to them, and like Evie said, you have a person or a team that's committed to your social media efforts, doesn't matter what type of business it is, you'll have success. You'll have, in quotes, social networking success.
I say if you've got, I mean, the company in question, I think the sales are something like $60 billion. So if they're selling that kind of, volume, if they're making that kind of money, they've obviously got a lot of customers and their products are quality. So there is an audience there. It's just how to communicate, and it's like you said, whether they go and try and look for mechanical engineers or material scientists using some of the tools that we just mentioned, they can start to communicate, to that. And I think if you mix in the community stuff as well as customer service as well, then it is, social media is a viable platform for them.
I'm doing better than you with your MMA connection. I found a whole group of marketing security guards. Go us.
And again, even no matter how boring you are, or how big your company is, and how boring your product might be, showcase your clients. There's another aspect of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
people are always happy to be mentioned, no matter what it is.
For some of the things that are a little bit dull, play with that, go with that. Think, what would a top ad agency do if I went to them and had a huge budget? How would they talk me out of $2 million? And it could be, one of the ones I shared on ISOOSI. There's a blog there talking about content marketing, and I said, okay, let's market something as boring as slippers. And they're not even the best slippers in the world. They don't let you walk up walls. They're not special ninja shoes, nothing like that. They're just, okay, good slippers. How do you market that? One of the things I came up with was, along the crazy idea, what about a day in the life of a master slipper craftsman? One of these really deadpan things that you're not entirely sure whether it's humour or not. But you've got this guy who, he can touch any slipper and tell you what material it's made of and what year it's from and what weave and which factory it's come. But deadpan. And that kind of thing just goes viral so easily because you don't know. You found it funny, but you've got to share it to see if somebody else did or whether they can see it's serious. But that's what I'm saying. There is no such thing as a dull subject. There's just dull approaches to it. There's always something. No matter who you want to reach, there is an angle. And guys, if you're marketers, that's what you're paid to do, to find that interesting bit.
And again, how many people do we have on the world? There are going to be people that are that are interested in the same things or a few of the things you're interested in. You just got to find them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think one of the advantages that those forums that I mentioned earlier with Bill and those of us who've been online a while, it used to be, if I joined a forum, the forum usually had a focus. And so I knew what I was going to be discussing there. It was kind of self-evident. And I think, to an extent, people who come on only since the advent of social media, they're used to just doing everything in one Facebook stream, and they don't understand the idea of topical communities and finding the right group or finding what makes a group tick, understanding an audience demographic, in other words. How should people really start to understand audience demographics and where to find the right place to share a certain piece of information? It's not all networks. How do they differentiate?
how do you find your audience?
Well, this is what I'm thinking.
Go ahead, Christine.
Listen, there you go. We're on the same page. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, well, this is what I'm thinking. I'm like Rain Man. I'm just blurting in, don't even know what you're talking about. But I believe where we can kind of make a connect right now with what you're doing with ISOOSI is use social networks not just solely to figure out how to connect with your audience, but also to network in this kind of a manner. I mean, I'm getting nuggets, you're all getting nuggets, who's watching are getting nuggets, so network to get ideas. For me, social networking, more specifically, social networks, speaking of the actual platforms, it gives us the ability, whoever you are, to be creative with how you present yourself, your business, your product, your service. We can be as creative as we want to be. It's so different from 20, 30 years ago where you had to go with an advertising agency, you had to know the right people, blah, blah, blah. We have open access to people all over the world. So network. Learn from other people. Don't just try to connect with your audience, connect with other experts. That's what I do.
That's what I've done coming here to Google+. I'm like, I have not known Mark or Lainey or any of my people that I connected with on Google+ just a few months ago.
Yeah.
I completely reshaped my professional circle.
Mm-hmm. We get rid of a lot of constraints that we might otherwise have when we turn to an online social network. Geography is one of the biggest. I mean, how many time zones do we span with this phone call with the people participating in it? More than a couple.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to finally putting my time zone with it. That as even just learning states has 3 time zones. I'm from Germany. We have 1 time zone.
So is Google Plus your primary place that you hang out, Christine, or recommend? But what about LinkedIn? Because I was just going back through my mind thinking about, we get a lot of our from, as well as the ISOOSI Research Engine, we have an agency, and I think it was 2002 the last time we did any kind of ad or print ad or TV ad. We've, all our sales since 2002 have really been from referrals from our network, and what I do is if we're going into a new client or we're doing work for a new organization, and just say that there's, I don't know, we work with pretty big organizations, 60,000 employees, but just say that there's 20 or 30 people in the marketing department. I try to get to know as many of those, not just the person I report to. I'll try to get to know as many of the people in that marketing department as possible. I'll friend them on LinkedIn, once we've had a bit of communication, but I'll make it my endeavor to really get to know as many of the people within that marketing department as possible, because that does a number of things. It reinforces us and our service, to that particular company. But what I found is, a lot of the marketing people in 5 years will be scattered everywhere. I mean that's just the nature of business. People move on, and for good, for good things or bad things, and they'll remember that good service. So if you're offering a quality service and you've got a commitment to customer service and you're doing quality things, you're going to get remembered. And the more kind of tentacles you can kind of put out there, it's just going to, you're going to reap the benefits of that in the future.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I went from asking Christine a question about LinkedIn into a ramble.
It happens.
Do you use LinkedIn a lot as well, Christine, or not so much?
I do have a presence on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, what I've found in my circles anyway, a lot of people are like thumbs down to LinkedIn, but I believe it depends on what your viewpoint is. I find that LinkedIn adds a lot of credibility to an individual, so I use my LinkedIn as a credibility for my professional history, if you will. But for me, it doesn't matter what the platform is, the principles are the same. You hit it right on the head. You know, the focus is on the relationships. So these individuals, for example, that you were connecting with, along with the person you want to approach in this particular company, well, if you connect with them as a human being, doesn't matter where you go or they go, you have a connection for life. And that is priceless. So if you're on LinkedIn and you're business to business or even business to customer, but I see LinkedIn more as a B2B type of a networking field or space, the networking principles are the same. So if you feel you need to be on LinkedIn, go for it. Personally, my niche audience, they're not on LinkedIn. They're on Google+, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook. So I hope that answers the question.
I'm using LinkedIn just like you do. It's my online resume. It's my background where I'm connecting with other professionals, where I have my portfolio of people that I work with or that I might work with. My clients are somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're running a little bit low on time. I've got a big question that I want to raise, and then we'll probably start on the roundup. I'm going to synthesize two questions here that are related. The first is from Brian Shea, and he's saying that the audience for Steelwire is not necessarily going to want to follow stuff about their products. He's saying he's not going to follow his dentist or doctor or landscaper. He wants to be able to find them, but you know, it doesn't mean he's going to be interested in everything they ever have to say. And I want to synthesize this with Lee Light saying, can a boring business possibly have a social presence that's engaging, that's totally unrelated to their business? And I think this is my personal take on this, and then I'll throw it over, is that actually that dentist or that doctor or that landscaper are almost always geographically located. So you've got men in your area as a focus group. You've got women in your area as a focus group. You've got homeowners in your area as a focus group. You've got local gardeners as a focus group. Now, any place you find those, you have found your connection. Not because they're shopping for your product, but because you share an interest in which your product is naturally going to come up. And what you can be talking about is, you know, the things outside of your profession that still relate and connect you to your market. So have you got any thoughts on that, Christine?
I knew you were going to ask me first. I love what you just shared. For me, I believe if it's completely unrelated, I don't believe you can be consistent with that and authentic with that. Even if you're big business, I believe it has to be something, like you said, Ammon, that ties back in somehow to the product or service that you have to offer. Whatever you're sharing somehow should have something to do with your personal brand message. Now, if in quotes you have a boring business, again, be creative, use visuals. You know, I'm a visual communicator. I'm all about images and, you know, share things that will provide some kind of value to your audience. So if it's a landscaper, post images of beautiful landscapes all across the world. People love that stuff. So you can be so creative. You don't think, there is no box. They say think outside the box. There really isn't a box, even for boring businesses.
You know, one example, Eric, who's not with us today, our creative director, brings up as an example, may contradict that a little bit, but they've got such a big brand that, you know, they get away with it, is Progressive. You know, Flo from Progressive Insurance. If you go to Progressive's Facebook page, I don't think they ever mention insurance. It's just kind of fun, quirky things, you know, like their TV ads. But again, sometimes when you build the brand, you know, small business and businesses that are just starting up don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
And you always can find a twist. I'm like, I just open up Progressive. They're talking about boats. They are talking about the American Sailing Association. So it still feeds into their insurance with the dentist. I'm like, you can have for cat a day a cat yawning and say, hey, you're really due for a cleaning. There are completely off-subject images or quotes that you can use and just twist them around so they fit your brand. You just got to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tailoring the message. You're completely right. Instead of just coming out and saying, you know, we want to sell you insurance, and being like a, you know, the car sales guy that comes to greet you as soon as you step foot in the car lot. It's tailoring it so it's not so abrupt and abrasive as a sales message. You know, it's almost subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thing I always think of that's a nice tie-in is think of those sponsorships on TV where you've got a particular, you know, regular program and a company sponsors it and they find that little connection. And it doesn't matter that, you know, the program's not about them. They've found that connection in your mind when it's done right.
Mm-hmm.
So one tip for everybody out there is think of the things that your business would sponsor, and then why not create that content yourself? That's your social media presence that's out there, that's engaging, that's connecting, and you basically use your business kind of as the sponsor for an interesting stream that relates to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another strategy, just to piggyback on what Carlos started with, businesses may not be able to hire someone to provide them or inspire them with these great creative ideas. But again, that's why we have social networks. That's why we can connect with each other, gain ideas, glean ideas. You might even have a common interest. Let's just go way outside of the borders. We can have I have a certain type of business, boring business. Another person that I'm connected with on social media has their type of boring business, but we have a common interest. And if that common interest is what draws us to each other, now we have a mastermind. We can bounce ideas off of each other. We can watch HOAs. We can join communities. So if you can't hire someone, that's why we have the internet. That's why I love the 21st century. We have the information right there at our fingertips, literally. So that's where the human connection really, really can benefit someone who's in startup mode.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go right back to the beginning. And where do we draw the line between professional, polished approach and the personal, authentic, I sometimes fart approach?
I think everybody personally has to decide where their line is. It's a personal preference is how much do you want to put out there? How vulnerable do you want to be?
Okay. Personally, I mean, for me, the polished part would have to be the website. The website's got to look professional. It's got to look right. There can't be glaring errors in the website. The blog can be personal, but I still want the design to be professional. So, you know, where are we going with this?
The thing is, me personally, I made the decision. My website is 90% polished. Yes. When you go onto my bio on my About Me, you will hear that my grammar is not right, that I hate writing bios, and that if you can't deal with my accent, better not call me. So I have a personal aspect on my website just because I made the decision I don't want to work with everybody. If somebody has a problem with my approach of things, with my speaking, with my accent, most of people tell me it's cute. I don't know it. And that there is a personal side to me, and if they can't deal with it, I don't want to work with them. So I made the decision that to have 10% of my website personal and out there, it's not polished.
Yeah. Admittedly, you know, your accent doesn't really stand out on this show because we've got Carlos to throw everyone off, you know, with a Latin-sounding name, with a Manchester accent, and he lives in LA. Lovely.
I love it.
He threw me at the beginning.
I look a little bit Spanish as well, or whatever. Confuses everybody.
Okay, two final comments here. Peter Lund says, isn't this exactly the same thing you do in an offline networking meeting? There might be doctors, dentists, landscapers, and Uncle Tom Cobley and all, but in meeting them, you're connecting with them. You're finding what you've got in common. You're potentially reaching that second-level connection through them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. The principles are the same whether we're online or offline. Principles are the same.
Mark?
Something that I was curious about, and it's how much coaching or sharing or consulting do the both of you do when it comes to offline networking with clients? You get involved in that in any way?
I'll go first. For me, I do it every day. As Ammon mentioned in the beginning, I am a network marketer, so I train my team how to network both online and off. But I also consult with entrepreneurs in my warm network, and same thing, online, offline. I think it's important for a 21st century entrepreneur to have a holistic approach to networking. Don't limit yourself to online. Don't limit yourself to offline. Have a nice balance of both.
Agreed. I started out offline. That's how I built my business up. And because I've tried to make Facebook work, so now that I finally moved to Google+, the online is growing too.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, I mean, just before I asked the question I was going to ask, Christine, what's your thoughts about like networking groups, offline networking groups, like BNI, and you know, I mean, when we first moved our offices to the US, you know, we got involved with a lot of chambers. I've said this before, building industry associations, but we also then joined some BNI groups. I don't know if you're familiar with BNI. I'm sure you are, but you know, there's this thing where you have to give leads, and you know, you kind of have to bring a lead for one or two people at each meeting, and it was almost, I mean, it was great. It was a great networking kind of group. I'm not going to say anything bad about it, but it was almost forced, and a lot of those leads people were just doing because they turned up at the meeting and realized they didn't, you know, have a lead to give to somebody, so they were just kind of introducing to, you know, Uncle Charlie or Aunt Mary, and it was kind of just going through the motions instead of actually building relationships between the people in the group. That's just one thing. I'm not. The other thing I just wanted to bring up is, you know, the reason I like social media a lot is because it's really brought industries closer together. So, for example, the SEO industry and all the you know, the trade shows and the things that happen, and people, you know, start to chatter about it before they go into an event, and it's kind of like the online mixes them with the offline. So like you've got like a trade show like PubCon or, you know, SMX, and then everybody that goes there really gets on with each other, but they're all excited to see each other, so the online kind of melds with the offline. And it kind of goes back to, you know, plumbers and electricians, or as we call them in England, sparkies. They never are without work. They're always passing leads to each other. And the more that we do that in kind of the marketing industries, like, you know, SEO, if you know somebody that's really good at forensic SEO and your kind of niche is keyword analysis, don't be scared of passing those leads on. And that's why it's really good to kind of, you know, network within your own industry, and you know, build up like a Rolodex, your kind of online virtual Rolodex of people that you trust, people that you communicate with, and people that you know where the quality of work is there, that if you pass that lead on, they're not going to, you know, that's your quality as well.
And there is another part of that. I was just talking with Mark actually last week with a small business, especially in web design. What are my clients going to do when I get sick or die? Like, not that it's hopefully going to happen tomorrow, but you know, we know it's going to happen sooner or later. Where are my clients going to go? How are they taken care of? And there are parts to my job where I'm like, I either way don't want to do it or I can't do it. So having backup of people where I can move it to is awesome. And especially with me, I have a whole bunch of web design companies around me, and I would never refer them. Just because I have gotten too many clients, I have gotten too much work from them where I'm like, you shouldn't put that online. I finally, thanks to online media, have a few people where I say, I blindly refer anybody to you. I finally have a backup.
Yeah. Bill, early in this chat, you in our little private chat, you shared an insight Do you want to share that one with the people generally? Because I think it's a great point that everyone learns it somewhere.
So you have to refresh my...
The first grade network marketing.
The first what?
Network marketing in first grade. Everyone learns it in first grade.
Oh, okay. Okay, so content marketing has been touted as something new, something fresh, and I mentioned that I was content marketing in first grade in elementary school. We had show and tell.
It's true.
And
It's
it is
so
exactly that kind of thing. You know, you are presenting things that are of interest to you in a way that hopefully makes it of interest to everyone and shares that experience. And at the end of the day, that's what your networking is about, and that's what your business is trying to do. So go ahead, rediscover that childhood truth you knew before you got so clever.
Yes, you hit the nail on the head, Ammon. That's what I was saying earlier. We have to be childlike. Let go of being, so professional and trying to do it all some kind of complicated way. Networking is so simple. It's so simple if we just slow down and remind ourselves what we did as kids. So, love that, Bill.
Well, thank you.
Well, we're over the hour, so thank you very much, everyone. I think this has been a great chat, and I think we'll be asking you to come back again because we really enjoyed this one. I think our audience have too. Carlos?
Yeah, thanks so much, Christine and Yvonne. My two little takeaways is, you said break out the box. I think everybody needs to do that. Think about things communicating in different ways and market as your audience, not to your audience. Put yourself in their shoes and be one of them and see how it's coming across. Both of you, thanks so much for joining us today. And Bill, Ammon, thanks as always. And tune in next week, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, for another ISOOSI chat. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Christine and Yvonne.